Welcome to the Writer Reads Chronicles of a Dark God, Book 2, Dark Gods Rise, Chapter 14, Aftermath. She's gone! The fool! No, I don't believe it, it's happened. Look out! The last cry came as Walshira's power surged against them. Too shocked by Sofriel's death, the gods failed to react. Her death hadn't flowed over them. It had flowed through them as a shock wave. Now, as they saw their nemesis reaching toward them, they didn't know what to do. Always the goddess had been beside them, ready to defend against magical attacks like these. And her brother. They looked, but Adriel was nowhere to be seen. As they reeled from the blow, Anshul finished guiding the last priests onto the sleek, dark vessel that had brought the fisher priest and her escort. Your lands, Anton Vicari Esselwood, Anshul ordered, not caring that everyone could hear their destination. Take them to your lands and the lands of your father. There you will offer them sanctuary, and they will repay your kindness in service to the gods and your kingdoms. Kingdoms? The ship's master asked. But he stopped when she vanished, closed his mouth with a snap, then turned abruptly to his crew and their unexpected guests. You heard the lady, he told them. Get them below and get us moving. He thrust a hand toward the darkness rampaging through the sky. This is one storm we do not wish to face. The sailors glanced up, then leapt to their tasks, all of them wondering where the goddess had gone. It was bad enough that the goddess of the night had come to call, without knowing if she hadn't truly left. All kinds of unsavory things haunted the evening dark. As you have said, Anton told the goddess, not caring if she was present or not. She would hear his words regardless. As you have said, he vowed, so shall it be. Anshul's lips curved into a very small smile as she swept toward the roiling mass that was Walshira. Her smile faded when she saw the old god gathering himself for another deadly thrust against her cohort's disarrayed ranks, and she knew they would lose more than the goddess of magic if she didn't act. Dark power crackled, dancing through the old one's dark before lancing out to strike at the gathered deities. Enshul drew on her own power and sent it out, trying to deflect the blow. Lightning answered lightning, shattering as it struck, each spell dispelling the other in a shower of spent energy. With a snarl, Walshira pivoted toward her, ignoring the disorganized deities on his flank. The darkness shifted, showing a handsome face whose lips curved into a sneer. Ah, my dear Anshul, he purred, you give me all the more reason to fulfill my promise to your sister. He extended a hand. Come with me. I would hear you scream in chorus. Anshul didn't answer. Instead, she gathered another of her dark blue lightning bolts, balling it in her hand, then drew on a fourth and bent it, before releasing it to hang in the air before her. At a command from her will, it flattened into a shield, all the colors of a nightstone dancing through it. Returning her focus to Walshira, she saw that, rather than send more lightning against her, Walshira had taken his face from the cloud and was now rolling it toward her. Anshul backed up a step, then hurled another piece of lightning toward him. It landed just in front of the cloud and exploded, sending traces of blue fire arcing over his form. Walshira screamed, and the gods answered it with a battle cry of their own. More lightning flashed, gold from the gods of light, black and furious from the demons, and green from the deities of nature. Other colors mingled also, and spears, bolts, and balls joined the lightning. Golden swords flashed, and daggers flickered with darkness. They hit the old one's flank, taking advantage of the way he'd turned himself to face Anshul, and used his vulnerability to their full advantage. Walshira bellowed again, rage and pain giving his cry a desperate edge. A second onslaught struck, and the bellow became a scream. Instead of turning to face them, the old one fled. His cloud left the sky, not turning to race toward Toromar, but vanishing, as if the power required to maintain it had been abruptly sucked away. Stolana, the goddess of death and new life, sighed, a sound of mingled grief and contentment that drew the attention of those closest. She is gone, she said. "We already knew that," another god sneered. "No," Stellana answered gently. "Sofriel is not just gone into death, but in spirit also, and not by the Old One's hand." "Then what?" the god demanded. "If her spirit has been taken and not by the Old One's hand, then what?" "That," Stellana softly replied, "that we do not know." The surrounding deities regarded her for a long solemn moment, then looked around at the skies, the now very clear skies. They searched for several long moments, and finding the skies remained clear, they realized how very, very tired they were. Battle fatigue weighted them, and weakness dragged at their limbs. Finding themselves weakened by the battle, they dropped from sight. Each one of them had spent more time away from their domains than they'd ever cared to spend, and they ached to return. Yet even as they disappeared from the mortal realm, they heard the Old One's velvety chuckle echo mockingly behind them. "As I have done to one," he promised, "so shall I do to you all." Deep beneath the palace in Deverath, King Andreas Ferivan had rejoiced in Walshira's defeat of Sofriel. He had laughed at the goddess's attempted escape, and raged at the apprentices' escape. He gasped as the newly arrived light flared, and then fell senseless to the floor, but not before he saw his master attack the deities gathered over Wildergen, and not before he saw and felt them defeat him. As his god slid weakly through the temple's wards, he felt Walshira's weakness and the hunger that resulted. The battle had drained the deity to a point lower than that at which he'd started, and Toromar's king trembled as the Old One reached for him. "Think, Master," he begged, fear saturating his voice as the Old One reached for him. The fear wisped out of him, tantalizing the god with its scent, and feeding him as had the fear of others. He cleared his throat. "Think, Master," he whispered. "Think. I'm all you have, the only one that can garner you whatever souls you need to replenish your strength. Please think." The god released him, sending him staggering away. The sudden thrust sent the king almost to his knees, but also put him momentarily out of the Old One's reach. It was as if the god was afraid for him. After a small span of silence, the god spoke. "Bring me more," he commanded, not trying to keep the pain and weakness from his voice. "And do not wait until the darkness cloaks your actions. I need to feed and swiftly. You have until dusk to bring me the souls and magic I need, and then my patience will be at an end." The king swallowed hard and bobbed his head in an abbreviated bow. "Yes, master," he replied, "at once." Yet, even then, he did not move. "Make it so," Walshira snarled, and then he was gone, leaving the temple void of all life save the king's. Feeling his absence, the king took a deep breath and slowly let it out. Surveying the carnage left from the evening's sacrifices, he glanced around at the waiting undead. "Clear this," he ordered. "Clear it, and prepare this hall for our master's return." As the zombies shambled into life, his gaze fell upon the nearest corpse, and a tremble shuddered through his limbs. Terror curdled his stomach, sending bile to his throat, and he hurriedly swallowed, all too aware of how close he'd come to sating Walshira's hunger with his own life and soul. "And therein the danger lies," he muttered, the god's deadline looming large in his mind. Pivoting abruptly on his heel, he left the temple, summoning his guards as he went.